Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome along to Silverstone for the third round of the 2020 British Formula 3 iRacing Championship. We've already had a couple of races. The first races took place at Oulton Park in Cheshire. Then it was over to Spa-Francorchamps, virtually at least, over in Belgium. We've returned to the UK for races 5 and 6. The weather conditions perfect here at Silverstone. The final free practice session is underway. Mark Werrell chatting to you now. Joining me in the commentary box again is Jack Cannon. Jack, great racing. 2 technical circuits to open up the calendar at Oulton Park and at Spa-Francorchamps. Now the wide expanses of Silverstone and all that slipstreaming to come.
Exactly, fan favourite. Great to be back against once again, Mark. I'm just looking at the weather here. Are we sure this is the UK? 26 degrees Celsius. Not sure on that one, but it's a very really nice day outside with 27 degree track temperature. That's quite cold actually. For this particular track, the tyres will of course want to come into effect. You want temperatures closer in the 30s more than that, so that's quite cold. So the drivers will be trying to get the tyres up to temperature, and it'll take them a bit longer to do that. But yeah, Silverstone, it's a real driver's favourite. It's on the list of majority of drivers. They really love this circuit, and it's fantastic racing, especially in these Formula 3 cars, because the slipstreaming around here is brilliant. It's kind of a mix of putting Oulton Park and Spa together. You've got the tight and twisty section, but you've also got the wide open expanses down the back near Copse, Maggots and Becketts and Chapel and down the Hanger Straight.
Yeah, we're on the GP Arena circuit, so we're using the wing pits as well. The Grand Prix pits are in use, and in the testing sessions that we had earlier on this week, our guest driver that joins us, if you were watching last week, you'll have seen our guest driver, Tom Ingram, British touring car fame, claim the reverse grid race number 2 of the 2 races that we had at Spa-Francorchamps. Well, he was a guest driver last weekend. This weekend, another guest driver comes to join us. He was quickest in the test session earlier on, and what a guest driver that we've got lined up, Jack, this weekend. The 2014 Champ Car or IndyCar champion and the winner of the Indy 500 back in 2018, Will Power, joins the entry list. Looking forward to seeing how he gets on.
Brilliant. It's great to have Will Power. It's another totally different form of motorsports. IndyCar taking away as a bit of a spin on the Fortec cars in the background. I think he might be able to get that going again, and he does. But Will Power in the number 26 car coming down the Hanger Straight right now. It's fantastic to see him joining us in this series. So we've got some even more big names lined up, of course, but we'll see how Will gets on. Tom Ingram did, of course, really, really well last week. Won race number 2. But we'll see if Will can do the same thing. Looking quick, as he said, was fastest in the practice session, and at the moment is currently sitting in about 10th place in this practice session. We've got a couple of more minutes to go in this practice session, about 15 minutes left in this free practice session. But Will Power, I mean, he's shown himself to be quite quick.
He has, yeah, he's not 10th anymore. He's just moved up to second, the quickest with that particular lap. Here's the championship points. Now, you may, if you were watching last week, you'll have seen Nico Verone going well, and we were expecting him to be leading the championship standings, but there were a few drivers, which he was one of them, that were excluded from some of the races at Spa-Francorchamps because they ran beyond the track limits too many occasions, and Nico Verone was one of the few that fell foul of that. So coming into this one, it is Piers Pryor that leads the championship by just 3 points from Nico Verone, the Argentinian, in second place, and then there's a gap back of a further 15 points to Tom Maxwell, running as one of our independents in third place. Carter Williams for JHR Developments, a team which have only so far virtually appeared in British F3. Hopefully they'll appear for real as and when we get racing. He sits there fourth. Ulysse de Pauw and Josh Mation wrap up the top 6 in terms of the championship. And also you can see that with Lannon Racing having drivers in the championship in 1st, 6th and 7th, it's not surprising that Lannon Racing currently lead the team's championship standings on 138 points. Chris Dittman Racing, who are second on 119. But there's still a long way to go. We've got 2 races here at Silverstone coming up. Then we'll head to Brands Hatch on the Grand Prix circuit, and we will conclude the season and crown our inaugural British Formula 3 iRacing Championship in association with Apex Racing TV at Donington Park in a couple of weeks' time. So there's still time in this practice session for drivers just to try and hook the lap up. We're looking at Nico Verone, the Argentinian, already a race winner once so far. He claimed the opening championship race at Oulton Park, round 1 of the season. He is looking to try and push on and hoist himself up from 4th position currently. Now, Verone's best lap in this free practice session, remember qualifying is coming up in a bit, is a 1 minute 52.8 1:09.03. He needs to find about another 0.2 of a second. We were commenting to each other, Jack, before we came on air. And at one point in this free practice session, bearing in mind the circuit is the 3.66 mile or almost, 6 kilometre Silverstone Grand Prix Arena circuit, the top 21 were covered by less than a second. It's going to be close.
It's extremely close. And of course, the drivers have a lot more laps around here in free practice than they will do in the actual qualifying session when they're on their lone qualifying. Just looking at Will Power now heading back into the pit lane. I would imagine we're about to start his lap. But yeah, it's really close. Jonathan Hoggard is actually fastest at the moment. But Will Power, he is second, but only by 1/100th of a second. So he's right up there. He's got the pace. Now, we're going to ride on board. Look at how twitchy it is. He hasn't got the tyres of temperature yet, but Will Power. Then we're going to go on a lap of Silverstone with him, Mark.
Here we go, yeah, on board with Will Power, heads over the start-finish line, up towards a sweeping right-hander at Abbey, still accelerating hard, then up towards the left-hand kink at Farm, a little bit of traffic just up the road that he will probably get just down the Wellington Straight, heavy onto the brakes, in towards the right-hander at Village, sweep from the left of the circuit over to the right, then up towards the loop, and then get on the throttle and start to build the speed as you head through the flat-out left-hand kink at Aintree onto the Wellington Straight. And this will be one of the areas, Jack, where they'll be looking to try and pick up a toe come the racing or even qualifying to maybe gain those extra few tenths of a second.
Yeah, exactly. Prime overtaking opportunity down the Wellington Straight into Brooklands now. Got to get turned in. Really tricky corner. Very easy to go wide out here to get an off track into Luffield then. It's really slow. It just goes on forever. Trying to get the power. Just getting really twitchy there. Will is all over the road here trying to get these tyres up to temperature. And obviously doesn't have them yet. They can use a lot of the road there, as you can see on the inside curve. We will not pick up an off track here. But now we come to the fastest part of this Silverstone circuit into Cops Corner. Reaching 140 miles an hour onto the entry. Careful not to run out too wide, and then this beautiful section, this Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. Just take a moment now to watch Will Power do this.
Slight lift through the mid part of it in towards the left-hander, then down a gear, flick the car in, get it straightened up nice and quickly for this section, because the momentum you carry out of that final part of Beckett's and onto Chapel Curve allows you to have all of that momentum down the hanger straight. And that is where Will Power is heading now, and by the look of things he's aborted the lap this time through, so couldn't quite manage to hook the sectors together and has opted to abort that particular lap. So he's heading round through Stowe in towards the Vale. Is he going to peel into the pit lane? No, he's going to back things up, slow things up and have another go at it. And that's what it's about, isn't it? These free practice sessions. Will, I know, turned a few laps earlier on in the week, as we say, was quickest in the official test session, but this is what free practice is about, isn't it? Just seeing whether you can squeeze a bit more out of the car, because come qualifying you can't afford to play around. They only get a couple of laps of qualifying and then the time will run out, so it's vital they nail a lap nice and early on in the qualifying session, which is coming up in only 10 minutes time now, Jack.
Yep, so the drivers will have exactly 2 laps to try and set a time. If they run off the track, their lap will be invalidated, so they need to be absolutely on the money from the get-go. They've got 1 lap to get the tyres up to temperature, etc., get the engine warmed up, and then they've got 2 laps to send it around. And of course, we have 2 races here today. We have the first race, which is determined by qualifying, and then second race, of course, is the full reverse grid, which you always are very excited about. We look at Ollie Clark now for Hill Speed, which Ollie had a really torrid time out. He was on the verge of winning in Spa last week, but just got caught up in a massive accident down the Kemmel Straight at the end of it.
It was heading up towards Le Camp, wasn't it? That just got tangled up, Ollie Clark, and that really undid all of the hard work. He'd been right up there at Spa, and had he have had a couple of good races there, he would be right up there in the standings. He's currently 14th in the championship standings. Did have 1 top 6 finish. That was the very opening race of the iRacing Championship season in British Formula 3. That was race number 1 at Oulton Park. Jonathan Hoggard still topping the free practice times at this stage. Will Power second, Ulysse de Pauw in 3rd place, Nico Verone ahead of Gamble and Maxwell completing the top 6. But Jonathan Hoggard is one of those drivers that I think you'll probably know, Jack. Every single night he seems to be competing in some sort of championship on iRacing, but he'll be a driver that will be hoping to bounce back after a couple of difficult races at Spa. He was also involved in an accident. He was also one of the drivers that picked up disqualifications as well, so he'll want a good stack of championship points this evening.
Yeah, exactly. Hoggard was actually had a pretty terrible run out in Spa last time, because he was actually upside down in Les Combes with a massive accident. So Jonathan looking a lot better at the moment. See if he can hook it together in qualifying, just to make sure he can get himself further up the grid and avoid all those accidents. But yeah, he's ahead now of Will Power. in second. Yulista Pau, of course, race winner in race 1 last week in Spa. And DePau, it is very, very close between those guys. There's about a tenth of a second separating the top 3. And I don't know if they're going to maybe find any more time because the grip does go away from the circuit quite quickly. And the toe is extremely, extremely valuable as well. So I reckon the guys are just going to put in their race fuel and just do a few race runs, I think.
We'll wait and see as to what's going to shake out here. Yulista Pau just pops in another time. As you said, he was the race winner in the first of the 2 races at Spa. But he'd had an awful Oulton Park. He'd picked up very few championship points at Oulton Park, so he really bounced back. And that's what Jonathan Hoggard, the man that we're still looking at as he heads round through Beckett's, needs to do after a poor weekend in Belgium. Nice and neat, but then loses the tail end of it, gets on the power a bit too early, carries a bit too much momentum through the apex, and a 360-degree spin for the runner-up in the 2019 BRDC Formula 3 Championship. Onto Bart Horston. He's another driver that's gone well, Bart, to the Australian for Lannon Racing. Lying 7th in the championship standings. He's had a 5th place and one of the top 10 finish so far. But again, he's one of those drivers that hasn't had the luck. Tom Maxwell pops in a quick time. He goes 4th quickest with a 1 minute 51.989. But Bart Horston, we've seen him on 2 separate occasions really fighting with the race leader, but largely to try and stay on the same lap because he's sort of had a few incidents and gone in and had some quick repairs in a couple of the races. We know he's got the pace, he just hasn't had the consistency, has he, as yet?
No, not yet. So he needs to get himself back on track. Now, last week, of course, talking about trying to unlap himself. Of course, he was almost in a battle with Tom Ingram to unlap himself, and then Tom was faster coming through. So Bart, I think he just needs to just settle down a little bit. I think he's just been a bit unlucky getting caught up in these incidents. But if he can get himself a good qualifying, Bart will be right up there, I would wager. And of course, championship leader at the moment is actually Piers Pryor. So his consistency over the past couple of rounds has really paid off for Piers. And of course, there he is now, just on his outlap. He's been really impressive for us, I think, Mark.
He's massively impressed me, Piers Pryor. He's a lovely young man who is hugely grateful that he's going to be racing in the championship for real. What will be his first ever season of car racing, because he's always struggled with budget to do a full season before. But Piers has failed to finish outside of the top 6 so far. Now, he did grab a podium place last week in the amended results. He was 3rd on the amended results table at race number 2 at Spa, but he's had a couple of 4ths and a 6th. So he's the only driver to finish in the top 6 in every race so far. Huge consistency.
Yep, and he now lies 3 points ahead of Nico Verone, who's currently P5 at the moment in this session. Nico, always the one we like to watch. Took the reverse grid and always likes to drive through the field and get him to keep himself out of incidents, which he always talks about is the key. And we'll look back now at Will Power. 5 minutes left in this practice session before we head to qualifying, and then the 2 races to follow afterwards. And just keeping an eye on anyone outside there. Yeah, no, Will Power now it's coming through Maggots, Beckett's, Chapel. See how he gets on. I'm not sure if Will would have raced here, so this is all kind of new territory in the European scene for Will.
He would have raced on the old configuration of Silverstone, because Will Power did a couple of seasons in British Formula 3 back in 2003, 2004 were his 2 years in the British Formula 3. So again, as with all of the drivers, if they're not currently racing in it, like Piers Pryors and Nico Verone and Josh Mason and Louis Foster, Josh Skelton, Bart Horston, Yulista Pau, Carter Williams, Ollie Clark, all of those are going to be on the real grid when we get going this year. But most of the others have a link to BRDC or British Formula 3 somewhere. And yeah, for Will Power, it was in his early stages of his career. Will, he's 39 years of age now. Ex-Formula 1 test driver, of course, raced for Australia in A1GP as well, single-seaters, but is still doing great things on the other side of the Atlantic in IndyCar, including that Indy 500 win back a couple of years ago now, 2018. So, yeah, I think in answer to your question, he will have done it, but before the arena circuit would have been built, Jack.
Yeah, so there's of course, we all love the old layout, but of course, it was all updated in 2011, I believe it was updated. But yeah, Yulista Pau on his outlap now, see if he can continue his form. Again, he was unfortunate in race 2, took the win last night. And there is Ian Ahmed popping into P3. And if I'm not mistaken, that now puts the top 5 separated by a 10th. Yes, it is. There you go. So Ian Ahmed slots in there.
Yeah, unbelievably close, isn't it? Yeah, considering it's, say, the circuit is 3.66 miles or 5.89 kilometres, the full Silverstone Grand Prix arena configuration. And Enem Ahmed is a driver that will be hoping for good fortunes as well. He was another one that didn't score as many points as otherwise he could have done last weekend at Spa-Francorchamps. So third quickest in this session, turns the number 42 car through the bottom of the Wellington Straight. So through what is Brooklands, then up towards the long sweeping right-hander at Luffield. Will try and get on the power. Remember, he is a former champion as well in BRDC Formula 3. He claimed the 2017 championship for Carlin, and it is the 20-year-old on board his Carlin Dallara F3 that we ride on board with now as he heads up towards Cops Corner.
A lot of speed there, very nicely done from Enam there as he heads down to Maggots and Beckett's and Chapel, which is it's a great fun driving in these cars. They have a lot of downforce through here. You can use a lot of the curb, you can use a lot of power coming through there, nice and neat and tight in there. That's a tricky exit to get right. You need to be almost straight on the exit, and then this long straight, this is where you'll have plenty of overtaking down here, down towards Stowe. Almost the outside is nearly a preferable line here, as it gives you the inside for the final couple of corners. See how Enam Ahmed comes through. Careful not to run out too wide. That's about the limit you can go right there. For the marker boards on the right hand side, brakes at about the 75-meter board that gets it turning. Gotta watch those sausage curbs because they will roll you if you go too much over them through the last corner there. Nicely done from Enam Ahmed, and that's going to be a 1:52, I think that was when he came across the line. It's not going to be an improvement, but still a great lap from Enam Ahmed, and I think it was actually an improvement. I excuse myself, 1:51.911, but that's still not enough to get that. I think that's what's that, 2,000ths of a second between himself and Will Power at this stage.
Yeah. I mean, you've got Jonathan Hoggard on a 1:51.88. You've got Will Power on a 1:51.89. Enem Ahmed is on a 1:51.91. Ulysses Power's a 1:51.94. So it's just getting closer and closer and closer. And we haven't reached the all-important part of qualifying. Not just yet, because that is nearly, less than a minute away now. So in 60 seconds, we will get qualifying underway. And Enem Ahmed has had a spin that time through. So that will be it done for him in free practice. Nico Verone, the Argentinian for Chris Dittman Racing, race winner so far this year in the British Formula 3 iRacing Championship, is just about to turn his way through Stowe down in towards the Vale. Now, the sector time's not suggesting really he's going to improve upon his 1:52.03 that is his best so far. So just keep an eye when he heads over the start-finish line. He will be almost one of the last to come over the start-finish line. No, very slightly slow. 1:52.4 is going to keep him in 6th position as we head towards the final few seconds of free practice.
Yeah, timer's going to tick over, and then a couple more seconds before qualifying gets underway, and the drivers will have 2 laps to set their best time, and they got to watch out not to go on the grass, not to use too much curb or anything of the sort right there.
Poor old Harrison Scott. You know, he's actually racing with a broken wrist. He broke it in training earlier on today. So Harrison Scott, it might be struggling towards the end of this evening.
That's impressive. Obviously, Harrison's got driving one-handed, so we'll see how he gets on. But we'll see. 10th place is still pretty impressive in practice from Harrison Scott. So we'll see if he can keep it up in the race. I'm sure if he's running on a direct drive wheel, any sort of contact is going to hurt a lot. So he's gonna want to watch out for that one. So I wouldn't be too surprised if he just kind of backed off a little bit on lap 1, because crashes on direct drive wheels are not fun.
No, and broken wrists, and I talk from experience here, aren't fun. Put the two together, yeah, and I don't relish the prospect for Harrison Scott. But for the 24-year-old, for Douglas Motorsport, he will crack on. Another driver that can trace his roots back into BRDC F3. He competed in just 9 races in the 2016 season. He did Silverstone, he did Snetterton, and he did Donington with what was HHC Motorsport at the time. He was runner-up, though, for Douglas Motorsport in the BRDC Formula 4, as it was called at the time, Autumn Trophy in 2015. So another driver that sort of cut his teeth here before then he moved on to become the champion in Euro Formula Open in 2017, driving these very cars in reality. So it's not the exact specification Tatius chassis that we would race in the BRDC F3 Championship, but on iRacing, the Dallara F3 offers similar levels of performance, similar levels of downforce, and it's as close as we can get. And the drivers certainly seem to be enjoying driving them. He's doing an important thing there, Jack, isn't he? Just trying to build some temperature into these tyres on the outlaps that he can then push on for his 2 flying laps.
Yeah, you need every bit of tyre temp that you can. So you've seen he's full lock through every corner, just trying to get some heat in the front tyres, trying to slide about a little bit as well to get some heat in the rears. So you can see he's full speed here, going back and forth, trying to get some heat in the tires. It's so crucial on the V7 tire model that you really do this. That you got to warm the car up, and you see getting sideways through there, trying to get some heat in it, and you should be up to temperature now. Some drivers we've seen do negate their first lap and just use the first qualifying lap that they're able to set as their second warm lap to get the tires up to temperature. So I wouldn't be surprised if a few drivers do that and put all their eggs in one basket and put their qualifying hopes on one single lap.
Yeah, I suppose you can use the first one as sort of a banker lap just to get a lap in and then really push on the second one. But as we heard from, I think it was Kieran Vernon at Oulton Park, he then made a mistake and ran wide on his second flying lap, and that dropped him much further down the grid than otherwise he would have expected. Nice and neat and tidy so far from Harrison Scott as he heads out of the loop and up towards the sweeping left-hander at Aintree. The speeds begin to build all of the time. He'll use the curb on the apex from wide towards the exit curb, and now we're looking straight on down the Wellington Straight underneath the vehicle bridge and then up towards the braking area, onto the brakes at Brooklands Corner, throw the car in towards the left-hander, and then you try and keep the car over on that right-hand curb and turn the car all the way round through Luffield Corner before you then head up towards the flat-out woodcut. And this is the area where everybody, without question, is taking huge amounts of tarmac on the inside, aren't they? Running over that curb. As you say, the drivers will already have worked out where they can get away with using the curb and where they can't. And Woodcut Corner is a classic example of where you can get away with it.
Yeah, you can hug the barrier on the inside. I'm not exactly sure why there's a curb there, but they're able to use it anyways. And gain maybe a tenth or two now through Magnuson, Beckett and Chapel. Easy place to get an off track through here, especially if you use too much of the curb on the inside. There are the sausage curbs. They're ready to greet you if you do make a mistake. Now down this long straight, you kind of relax for a couple of seconds as you head under the bridge. And we'll now start to see the first couple of times come in for these drivers as we head onto halfway through this qualifying session already, up through Stowe. Harrison Scott looking neat and tidy so far. Careful not to use too much curb there as well. Plenty of places that are out to catch you. Not as bad as Spa was, but you'll still get away with it now. Ollie Clark currently plays 152.6. Kieran Vernon down to Elise DePau. And now Nico Verone 152.4. What does Harrison Scott do as he comes across the line? What does he set? A 152.57 for his first lap, and now we'll just wait for a couple of drivers to set their laps too. Yeah,
it looks as though Jake Dalton has slotted briefly up into fourth, but then drops down to fifth because Bart Horston goes third quickest with a 152.575. The times will continually bounce around. Jonathan Hoggard puts in his first lap and does a 152.780, but Bart Horston at the moment third quickest. Nice and neat and tidy again through the braking area for the village and the loop. The speeds begin to build again as he flicks the car around through the left-hander at Aintree. There's still a couple of cars that haven't even completed a lap yet as we look at Ali Al Khalifa and Max Maserati. Neither of those have actually posted a lap just as yet. Back towards the car of Chris Meelan. And as we look at Chris Meelan, the man from the Isle of Man, he is currently 17th quickest.
Yeah, I believe we're actually looking at Ali Al
Khalifa. Yeah. Sorry, he's 24, isn't he, Chris Meelan? Yeah, that's Khalifa, yeah.
Yeah, just a quick note, actually, just to Harrison Scott and Bart Horston. There's a thousandth of a second between those guys. 155.74, 575 around this track, which is really impressive. We're still waiting for Will Power to come across and set his lap. Piers Pryor, we're waiting for Carter Williams. There's a few more left to go, and we are now looking at Harrison Scott on his second lap. Carter Williams goes to 14th place. And Will Power, I think, is going to use his second lap as his lap, or possibly. We'll wait and see as he comes across the line, see what he sets. Will Power, he's going to go to the top, 152.37 by 300ths of a second. And Ollie Clark on a good one. Let's see if Ollie Clark's going to pop up there. And he does, 152.1 for Ollie Clark. We know he was quick last week, but Verone pips him by just a small amount as well, 152.12 for Nico Verone. But now we've got to wait to see what Will Power can do, if he can improve on that lap, and he's on his second one now.
Yeah, let's have a look, see what Will Power might be able to do this time through. He needs to try and find a little bit of pace if he can. I'm also keeping an eye on what Bart Horston is doing well, because his sector times were looking reasonably quick. But the number 26 car of Will Power now down into fourth position. So he needs to try and improve his time this time through. Sector time suggesting that he's on a reasonably good lap, but he's still got a what, about half of the lap still to do. Just round through Woodcut Corner now. Over the old start-finish line comes Will Power. Needs to find 0.2 of a second if he wants to try and get himself towards the front end of the grid. Nice and neat and tidy through Cops Corner. Used the curb on the exit, but no more than he needed to. And then in towards Maggots, and then the fantastic complex where you flick right at Beckett's, then left again, then right for the final section. Josh Mason comes up into 8th quickest at the wheel of car number 21 with a 1:52.571. But time is running out now for Will Power as he heads onto the Hanger Straight.
I think he made a mistake on the exit of Chapel. I wouldn't be surprised if that was invalidated there. He touched the grass. He was looking really good, but we'll keep an eye on it anyway. You can see there the yellow sector. That cost him time because he was purple in the 3rd mini sector there. I'm not sure if this is going to be an improvement for Will Power. He just took too much curb on the exit of Chapel, and the car was bouncing around on the curb there, so I'm not too sure. Either way, he's still P4. Even if he can improve to 3rd place, he goes way past. That's going to be an off-track right there past the sausage curb. So I don't think this is going to be that for Will Power, and it certainly isn't. So he comes across the line and does not improve. Piers Pryor, is he going to improve his position from 11th? He does, to 7th. 1:52.50 goes to 7th. And now we just wait for Chris Milne. He's the last car on track. But Nico Verone, pole position next to Ollie Clark and Ulysse DePau.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting front end of the grid. Chris Meelan's still pushing on his final lap to see what he might be able to do. The man from the Isle of Man is a good way round the lap. So he's just heading up the Wellington Straight, no, up the Hanger Straight now and up towards Stowe Corner. But the clock has ticked to 0. He won't even be able to complete the lap in the end. So he will line up towards the tail end of the field. So we're getting ready for race number 1. This is round 5 of the championship in reality. And we are going to see, I think, a titanic battle with lots of slipstreaming at the front. Nico Verone for Chris Dittman Racing on pole position. Alongside him is the Hill Speed car of Ollie Clark. And Ulysse DePau, winner last weekend at Spa-Francorchamps for Douglas Motorsport, lines up alongside the guest driver, Will Power, on row number 2. Row 3 is Harrison Scott driving with a broken wrist, and Jake Dalton having gone well in 6th position. Championship leader Piers Pryor is 7th, with Tom Gamble for company. Josh Mason and Bart Horston are on row number 5. It's Carter Williams and Ben Hingley that sit there on the 6th row of the grid. On to row number 7, NM Ahmed and Will Palmer, the 2 former champions, line up on row number 7. Jonathan Hoggard and Tom Maxwell on row 8, with Louis Foster and Kieran Vernon on row number 9. Ali Al Khalifa and Nikolai Kiergaard only down in 20th position on the 10th row of the grid. Max Maserati and Chris Meelan on row number 11. And row number 12 sees Vladimiras Joitstis line up alongside Josh Skelton on row number 12. So the cars are all lined up and revs are beginning to rise. The red lights are coming on. Who is going to get the better start of those on the front row of the grid? Nico Verone gets a reasonable start, but I think it is just going to hold on to the lead of the race. Yes, he is. Nico Verone is going to lead from Ollie Clark as they head up towards the Kincott Abbey for the first time. Then round through Farm Curve, contact further back. Will Power's involved, and couldn't quite pick out who the other one was. The Douglas Motorsport cars, was it not?
I believe it was Jake Dalton, I think, that spun around there as well. So that's a real shame for Will Power. He's got going again, luckily. He kept it out of the barrier. He is still going. But that, yeah, it was Jake Dalton who we saw spinning there. So I wonder if there was a contact between the two of those guys there. But Will Power keeps it out of the wall, full 360. But after a couple of corners there, it's Verone still leading from Ollie Clark and Ulysse DePau. Now they've formed a triple car train right here as they come through Luffield for the first time. And we go through Tom Gamble up to 4th place, Bart Horston into 5th, Harrison Scott 6th. Well, I say that, he's just been passed by Josh Mason, and now Scott is 7th, Piers Pryor in 8th, Jonathan Hoggard and Ben Hingley are your top 10. Nikolai Kiergaard up 7 places where he started up from 20th. And into this corner right here, Josh Mason, followed by Harrison Scott, followed by Piers Pryor. We look as they fan out towards Maggots and Beckett's. That's their 3 abreast heading into Maggots and Beckett's. Piers Pryor just about manages to go through. Jonathan Hoggard loses a spot there, but they managed to get through there unscathed. But it's still Verone from Clark and DePau.
It is, yeah, dropping to the tail end of the order. It's gone Vladimir Choitstis. Problems there for Ben Hingley, who is now damaged, as is. Oh no, there goes Will Palmer with damage as well now. Having lost the front wing, he's going to have to call into the pits and get a quick repair on that one. So Verone leads. It is going to be Ollie Clark from Ulysse DePau. Tom Gamble is up from 8th to 4th in the early stages of this one. And Bart Horston is up from 10th to 5th. So there's been some good gains there. The biggest gainer on this first lap, Jonathan Hoggard, I would have said, who is up from, 15th on the grid, now into 7th position.
Yeah, I think Nikolai Kiergaard might just rival that, up 10 from 20th. He's up to, so Nikolai Kiergaard's made a great start, but now we look at Ulysse de Pauw challenging Aldi Clark into this section here, up the inside. Nothing much that Aldi Clark can do about that, and he has to secede the position, so de Pauw goes through to second, but now Tom Gamble has joined in, as has Bart Horsen, so your top five are here, but Verone slowly breaking away, so de Pauw really needs to get a move on here, but he has to deal with Aldi Clark first.
He certainly has. Ollie Clark's going to look to try and see whether he can hang on to it. Ulysse de Pauw has the inside line as they head in towards Brooklyn's corner, so there's not a great deal that Ollie Clark could do about that. He's now going to come under pressure from Tom Gamble as well if he's not careful, and all of this is just allowing Nico Verone all of the time just to ease away from the squabble that's going on for second, third, fourth and fifth that sits behind him. Remember, it's a 20-minute race. The results from this race will be the grid for race number 2, albeit a full reversed grid. So Verone at the moment, if he hangs on to the lead, will be coming off the back in race number 2. And we already know what Nico Verone can do off the back of a grid. But again, the Argentinian is having a good run here, looking to put daylight between himself and Ulysse de Pauw in second place. Now, as they come out onto the Hanger Straight, this is the critical exit, isn't it, here for Ollie Clark? If he can get in the slipstream of Ulysse de Pauw, he might have an opportunity as they head up towards the braking area for Stowe.
Yeah, and he may do. I think the person's going to have an opportunity first, though. I think maybe Bart Horsten on Tom Gamble. Gamble defends it as they head into Stowe corner. He's going to have a go on the outside. He can't quite find the momentum to go around. Undercuts him, though, on the exit, but not quite able to get up alongside, heading down towards the last couple of corners now. Bart Horsten on the outside line has to brake very late to try and go around the outside. He's going to get the squeeze put on him here. There's contact, and they come to blows. Tom Gamble around, and that's so unfortunate. He gave him the squeeze on the exit there. There's nothing that either of them could really do there, so they drop down. Tom Gamble down to 10th. Bart Horsen has survived. He's in 4th place. He got the squeeze there, but now you can kind of see Josh Mason. He's going to make contact, and off the road goes Josh Mason with the front off the car. That was unfortunate. He was trying to make it through the incident, and it didn't work, and into the wall, and out of this race goes Josh Mason. Yeah,
so Josh Mason out of the race, and all this has allowed Will Power to clamber back into 10th position again all of a sudden. So Will Power is making his way back up through the order after his first lap spin. So Bart Horsten is now in 4th place. Jonathan Hoggard is now up into 5th place. Piers Pryor, the championship leader, is in 6th position, as Hoggard now is up into 4th place with a great dive up the inside. Very brave move heading in towards Brooklyn's corner, straight through, grabbed the place from Bart Horsten, the number 50 car, now losing a position. But what is Bart Horsen going to do? The good thing is he's got a teammate behind him, Piers Pryor, so the two Landman cars I'm sure won't want to attack each other, but they will try and attack the number 3 of Jonathan Hoggard that lies ahead. Through Copse Corner they'll go. This is lap number 4, running a little bit wide there was Piers Pryor. Has to be careful, he doesn't do that too many times through that part of the corner.
Exactly, you are allowed exactly 20 off tracks, so they're allowed to run off the track about 20 times. As now we look at Louis Foster getting on the back of Piers Pryor here. So Louis Foster's having a good run on race 1, as you can see, and he also got Nikolai Kiergaard challenging him down towards Stowe. This is a great race so far for Nikolai Kiergaard, who's come from 20th, now trying to go for 7th on Louis Foster. Foster's also having a go at Piers Pryor. They're almost going to go 3 abreast. Are they going to make it through to Louis Foster around the outside? How have they made that work? Foster gets it done on Pryor. Kiergaard's going to try and follow, as is Tom Gamble. They all pile through into here. So Foster, does he get the job done? He gets a spin, and Kiergaard gets caught up, and Tom Gamble's in another instant, and that now is Tom Gamble as well involved in another one. Such a shame for those guys, just a bit unfortunate, and Kiergaard gets caught up in another instant that screws up his run from the back.
Yeah, such a shame again, and Tom Gamble's got rear suspension damage as well, so he'll head towards pit lane and get a quick repair, and all of this is playing beautifully into the hands of Will Power, who's just picking up the places again. He's now up into 7th position, is Will Power. Remember, he qualified 4th, dropped down to the very tail end of the grid as a result of a spin, and now has clambered his way all the way back up through the order again, and is looking as though he might be able to possibly reel in the next car that is just ahead of him, and that is going to be Louis Foster, who was sort of just ahead of that little tangle that we saw between the trio heading down into towards the braking area for the Vale. Nico Verone still leading all of the time. The gap that he's got is about 1.5 seconds actually between himself and Ulysse de Pauw, with Ollie Clark there in 3rd place, Jonathan Hoggard in 4th, and who's up the most places? I think Max Maserati at the moment, because he started outside of the top 20 and is now up into 9th place at the wheel of the number 81 car, the all-white car, the sole car that hasn't got a livery.
Yeah, so it was very distinctive there with no livery on the car from Maserati. Kiergaard's still going around, but he doesn't have a front wing, so he'll be coming in to the pit lane very shortly. Chris Meelan as well in 11th place. He might actually get into the top 10 past Kiergaard here. So Chris Meelan on a really good run as well. There he goes into 10th place now. So on lap 4, Verone leads, and this is also going to really hurt Piers Pryor because his championship rival is out in the lead at the moment, and Piers Pryor is down in 20th, and we now look at Jake Dalton, who's going to move past Kiergaard as well. As Ali Al Khalifa is just in the background there. That's Vladimir Chortzis just behind, who is being lapped. He was involved in an earlier incident, but Verone is lapping at the moment, and you can see he's not too far ahead of Yusuf, about a second and a half. And DePauw setting good lap times, but he's just a tenth of a second off of Verone at the moment.
He is, yeah. Verone did a 152.1 last time through. It was a 152.2 from Ulysse DePauw, so they're matching each other for pace. You can see the relative gap between the lead pair as they head out of Aintree and onto the Wellington Straight. Nico Verone continuing to lead the race. We are, almost halfway through this race now as well. By the time they get over the start-finish line, they'll be almost halfway through it, this first of two 20-minute races that we've got. Watch out for Ollie Clark, though, in third place, because he's not that far away, is he still? He's still within touching distance. The 17-year-old who came out of the US Formula 4 Championship back in 2018-2019, he'd been competed. He has signed to race for Hillspeed in the 2020 season as and when we get it underway. We said he was quick last week at Spa, didn't have the look. Well, for the moment, third place is very good indeed, and the sector times he's setting suggesting he's on a good lap this time.
Yeah, and he's in slipstream range of Ulysse DePauw. It's about 7 to 8 tenths of a second you get the slipstream, so Ulysse DePauw cannot relax. He's got Ollie Clark chasing him, and the gap just opens up another bit to Verone. 1.7 seconds it is now as they head on to lap number 6 next time at the halfway point of this race, this 20-minute race. We now look back at Ainam Ahmed, who's battling with Kieran Vernon. You can see Vernon trying to get back past again, but Ainam Ahmed just trying to fend him off now. He's going to have to go to the outside, heading towards Copse Corner. This is going to be brave stuff here from Kieran Vernon if he's going to try and stick it on the outside, but he's not close enough. And Ahmed has to hang on for 15th place. Might have a run on them as they get down to the Hangar Straight again. But Ainam Ahmed not on the best of races at the moment.
No, it's a race to forget. He got tangled up in that 3-car incident down in the earlier on in the race. Nico Verone still continuing to lead at this stage. Ulysse DePauw in second place. Ollie Clark in third position. Now, Will Power has just popped in the fastest lap of the race that we've seen so far. 1 minute 52.150 from Will Power. So he still lies in 7th place, but has really closed in on Louis Foster over the course of the last couple of laps. We ride on board with Ainam Ahmed, looking back at the car that he's doing battle with at this stage, and that is going to be Kieran Vernon. Kieran Vernon is not letting him go, is he?
No, he's really trying to keep himself up in the Chris Dittman racing car, chasing the Carlin car of Ainam Ahmed. So heading across to begin their lap 6 across the line, and Kieran Vernon is going to have to hang back for now. But yeah, you're right, Will Power is definitely closing in, and you can see, well, at the same time, Louis Foster is also closing in on Bart Horston for 5th place. So this could get interesting. Louis Foster going for 5th place. This is kind of the best race one that Louis Foster has had, because he's always ended up on the reverse grid pole. He was saying, I'm always going for the reverse grid wins last week because he gets caught up in all these incidents. But it's going to be a really good, it's good race one for Louis Foster, the best he's had, and now he's challenging Bart Horston.
He is, yeah, he's coming under pressure from Bart Horston. Both of these drivers will be racing in the championship in 2020, and straight through goes Louis Foster. Bart Horston still looking to try and see whether he can hang on to 6th place. Will Power closing in as well in 7th place. And looking at the sector times, yeah, sector 1, sector 2, sector 3, sector 4, Will Power was quicker than the 2 cars ahead. So that little squabble that they were having has allowed number 26, Will Power, the Australian, to close in ever more. We're now past the halfway point of this race as well. Will Power from 4th down to the back of the grid, back up to 7th, a real yo-yo of a race for him.
Yeah, I wonder, is Bart Horston carrying damage from the earlier contact? He's not able to keep up with Louis Foster at this point. I would imagine he's carrying something on the front end after the contact. Earlier, big twitch from Will Power. He's pushing hard to that last corner, and you can see he's right on the limit. He's pushing very, very hard to try and catch up to the back of Bart Horston. Because even if he could recover to a 5th place after dropping to the back of the field and after starting 4th, I mean, it'd be a great story. And you can see now, challenging Bart Horston in towards this first section here, not able to get up alongside him, but surely going to have a go into Brooklands.
He's not going to want to sit behind Bart Horston for too long. Will Power did say, I spoke to him earlier on in the week, and he did say he's not just here to make up the numbers, he wants to beat these youngsters, and he is certainly pushing as hard as he possibly can. 12 minutes of the race now gone. He picks up the slipstream over Bart Horston. Is he going to jink out on the run towards Brooklands yet? To the left-hand side, has the inside line. Not a great deal of defence put up from Bart Horston. Through goes Will Power, gets himself now up into 6th position, and he's now going to want to A, pull away from Bart Horston, and B, see whether he can start to close in on the number 20 car of Louis Foster.
Yeah, Louis Foster built a 1.4 second gap on the guys behind. Horston's starting to think about a challenge in towards Copse Corner. He's not going to be able to come alongside there, and it looks like, yeah, just looking at the left front end plate of Bart Horston's car, there is damage on it, so from the contact earlier, and that is hurting him down the straight. So you can see Power is just pulling away. He's pulled half a second already. Even the smallest amount of damage on these cars will really affect you, and now he may end up possibly later on this race falling victim to Ben Hingley, as well as 3 seconds behind him. And there he is, Ben Hingley, in the Fortec Motorsport car, P8, and then Max Maserati in 9th, and Chris Meelan in the top 10. A good one for Chris Meelan at the moment, but still Verone is having no problems out front and still leading.
Yeah, it's all very much under control, isn't it, for Nico Verone? 2 seconds to the good. He is, you can see the gap back to Ulysse de Pauw in 2nd position. So we look at the number 77 car of Ben Hingley running in 8th position. He's got Max Maserati and Chris Meelan behind. Right, I've got Ben Hingley on my screen, but I think the shots you're receiving are of Nico Verone, which is unusual, Jack.
Yeah, we are definitely looking at Nico Verone in the Chris Dittman racing car. You can just see the car of Ulysse de Pauw in the background there, and Ollie Clark just peering out there. And Jonathan Hoggart, I'll tell you, is not far off the back of Ollie Clark. Hoggart's been quicker than the guys up front. There he is, Jonathan Hoggart, and closing in. I think he's within slipstream range here of Ollie Clark. It'll be interesting to see if Hoggart can maybe grab a sneaky podium in race 1.
Yeah, now we've gone to Jonathan Hoggart. That's the shot that I'm seeing, but the Nico Verone shot, all I ever got was Ben Hingley. Have no idea what was going on there. Now we can see Jonathan Hoggart trying to close that gap on the number 62 car of Ollie Clark, pushing hard, the runner-up in the championship from last year. Jonathan Hoggart seeing whether he can get a little bit more momentum out of the car. He won the Jack Cavill pole position cup last year as well, for claiming more pole positions in the BRDC Formula 3 Championship than anybody else. He was also, if you recall, the winner of the Aston Martin Autosport BRDC Young Driver of the Year award as well. And as a result of his performances, won the Sunoco Whelen Challenge, so raced at the Rolex 24-hour of Daytona in January as well. So he's one of the few drivers that's done some racing for real. Now here is Louis Foster under pressure from Will Power. It's not taken long for Will Power to close. Louis Foster trying to defend, but Will Power throws in the dummy and swaps from one side of the track to the other. Has the inside line heading round through Stowe Corner. Louis Foster's trying to brave it out through Stowe. I think Will Power is just going to have the job done here, or is he, as they headed towards the braking area for the Vale. So Louis Foster still trying to drive as wide a Dallara as he possibly can, and Will Power doing the sensible thing there, just avoiding losing the nose cone of the car or intermingling wheels with Louis Foster. Just backed out of the move. He'll live to fight another day, and there might be another opportunity in the remaining 4.5 minutes.
Well, a great opportunity for Louis Foster to go up against Will Power. Will Power carrying the speed on the outside, not able to get up alongside. Bart Horston's thing is keep going, guys, and that'll give me a chance to catch up. So Foster now trying his best to hold Will Power behind him for 5th place in this race 1. Horston is about 1.7 seconds behind, but surely Power is going to have it now, heading down towards Brooklyn. Jonathan Hoggart, by the way, into 3rd now. He's got past Ollie Clark. We'll keep an eye on Will Power. Look at the defence put up from Louis Foster heading towards Brooklyn. Is Will Power going to have a go on the outside? He's going to try and sweep it round towards Luffield Corner. Foster, can he hang in behind? Power's still there, but Foster is still putting up a sterling defence right here. Power has the inside out of Luffield, but Foster is still there. But it's going to be really hard to fight off Will Power heading towards Copse Corner again. This is a fantastic fight between the 17-year-old and the 39-year-old experienced driver on the inside line now. Can Foster hang it around the outside of Copse Corner to be a tough ask? And he backs out of it and lets Will Power through. This is a fantastic fight, and I think Foster, I don't think this is over, I'll tell you.
I don't think it is either, yeah. If Louis Foster can have another little nibble, he's going to have a go almost straight away, heading up towards Beckett's corner. Side by side through Beckett's Will Power had to avoid and head off the tarmac a little bit there. Needs to be careful that he doesn't overrun the perimeter of the circuit too much. And Louis Foster here gets a good run out of Chapel and is instantly going to try and fight back again. Will Power will hook the right-hand side of the circuit, so Louis Foster jinks to the left. They go absolutely together up towards the braking area for Stowe Corner. Louis Foster is going to have to break it out around the outside at Stowe to try and get the inside line when they head down in towards the Vale. Wheel-to-wheel stuff through Stowe Corner. Then they're down in towards the braking area for the left and the right kinks at the Vale and at the Club Chicane. And Louis Foster has returned the favour immediately over the Indy 500 winner there. He takes the place back, and now Will Power is coming under pressure from Bart Horston, who I think is going to pick his pocket. The door was open. Will Power was too busy concentrating on the efforts of trying to attack, maybe not so much focused on defence. And Bart Horston now is going to have a go at him.
Yeah, he got past briefly, but Power hung around the outside of Abbey there, and now gets back in front. But that was a fantastic move from Louis Foster to keep Will Power behind. He would have loved that. Horston now, a little bit of a slide on. That's allowing Ben Hingley to close into. Ben Hingley's right in this battle now as well for this 6th place. He's caught up to the back of Bart Horston in the Forte car, and there's not a lot of time left in this race. I would imagine there will be close to 1 lap to go when we come across the line next time. So we'll see in due course. But Will Power, he's really struggling to get past this young Brit.
He really is. He really is struggling. He's going to regather his efforts again and refocus, I would think, here, Will Power. He's managed to just pull away an extra half a car length over Bart Horston. He now needs to focus his efforts on doing what he did only a few laps ago, which was closing up on Louis Foster's double iRacing machine that sits ahead. And for the moment, the Brits still just ahead of the Aussie as they head once more out of Copse Corner and up towards Maggots and then on towards that fantastic Beckett's complex, which was where they were side by side last time through. Very brave stuff indeed from them. Into the final minute and a half, so we're going to get this lap in and one more thereafter, I would have thought. Nico Verone still continuing to lead by 3 seconds from Yelista Powell, who has got plenty of daylight between himself and Jonathan Hoggard. There's another 1.5 gap from Yelista Powell in second to Jonathan Hoggard in 3rd place. But Nico Verone all having gone to plan for him so far. He will head over the start-finish line with just over a minute to go onto the final lap of the race, and you'd be a tough man to argue against the fact that he's not on course for win number 2 of the season.
Yeah, then a sterling display from Verone, no issues whatsoever, and he's out front and clear. But of course, the battle we all want to see is Will Power going to finally be able to get past Louis Foster for this 5th place? He is closing back up to him, and we'll keep an eye on that in due course. But out front, Verone is having no problems at all. And he's led every single lap of this race. Back to now Ben Hingley on Bart Horston. So he's having a go at him now through this first sequence of corners. We'll see if Ben Hingley can grab 7. You can see Will Power, he's very close to the back of Foster, as well as they head down towards Brooklands for the 11th time. And we'll see now if there's going to be a swap in positions between Ben Hingley and Bart Horston. He's going to have to go to the outside. He's trying to find space on the inside. Going to have to go around the outside. Not quite going to be able to do that there. I reckon Hingley's best opportunity is actually to hang back for now and have a go down the hanger straight.
I'd agree, yeah. If he just sticks with him through Copse Corner and stays as close as he can through Beckett's, because of course the car ahead will make a hole in the air and that will affect the aerodynamics on his car. But for Ben Hingley, the man who finished 3rd in the BRDC Formula 3 Championship standings for Fortec Motorsport back in 2017, he is not giving up in his aspirations to try and steal the place away from Bart Horston. He gets a better run through Copse Corner here, Ben Hingley, and he might get it done by the time they get up towards Maggots. Side by side through Maggots, absolutely wheel to wheel, and Ben Hingley has managed to unlock the door, but has he unlocked it in the wrong place, Jack? Because now he's going to be punching a hole in the air for Bart Horston as they head down the hanger straight for the final time.
Yeah, and up around 5th place it's also happening. We'll go back to Nico Verone, who's had absolutely no issues. He's going to take race 1 victory there as they come across the line. Nico Verone wins. DePau is going to be 2nd, and Hoggard's going to be 3rd. Let's see who's going to come out on top in the battle for 5th place. Will Power side by side with Louis Foster. Has Power got it done? Foster's going to have a go around the outside, stick his nose in on the Indy 500 winner. He runs wide. Foster, hopping the car. Power's lost it on the last corner. Up into the gravel trap. He battled hard. Foster comes out on top, and ahead Bart Horston just holds off Ben Hingley. Will Power comes across to 8th place. He just hopped the curb trying to fend off Louis Foster, but Foster holds on for 5th place, but Power somehow manages to keep going and hold on to 8th place.
That was an astonishing finish to the end of that particular race. And my camera again just seemed to get stuck on Ben Hinchley. So there's clearly something with that number 77 car that when we focus on it, my camera sticks to it until we change to something else again. So not quite sure what's going on there. Anyway, Ahmed comes over the start-finish line in 15th place. Disappointing race also for the championship leader, Piers Pryor, because he only finished in 20th position, and Nico Verone, who was lying second to him at just 3 points adrift in the championship, picked up the win, his second of the season. So Nico Verone, if we've done the maths correctly, and there are particular peculiarities in the championship scoring, largely because drivers have to also do certain things on social media to be eligible for championship points. So providing Nico Verone has done those things he needs to do on social media, he would pick up the maximum 35 points for a race win, 29 points for second, 24 for third, 21 for fourth, it's 19 points for fifth, 17 for sixth, and it continues to diminish thereafter. But for Nico Verone, it's another solid performance, bouncing back after the disqualification from race number 2 at Spa-Francorchamps last weekend. But that's now 2 wins, a third and a fourth for him as he finishes so far. Now, those drivers will be coming to join us in the live commentary very, very shortly. We've got another warm-up session, just a 10-minute warm-up session for the drivers to quickly put a few laps in before we head towards race 2. But here's confirmation of the results. It's a win number 2 of the season for Nico Verone by 3.4 seconds in the end from Ulysse de Pauw. Jonathan Hoggard in third, ahead of Ollie Clark, Louis Foster and Bart Horston with that fantastic fight, finishing in 5th and 6th. Ben Hinchley was 7th. Will Power, with those problems at the very final corner, finished in 8th place. Max Maserati probably gained more places than anybody from his start position to finish 9th. And Chris Meelan, also another big climber in that race, finished in 10th. Ali Al Khalifa, Scott Harrison, Jake Dalton, Will Palmer and N.A. Ahmed complete the top 15, with Kieran Vernon in 16th place, Tom Maxwell 17th, and Nikolai Kiergaard finishing in 18th position. Josh Skelton 19th, then the championship leader Piers Pryor down in 20th, ahead of Carter Williams, Vladimir Choitsis, Josh Mason, Tom Gamble, and he will be the last of the finishers in 24th position. Kuhn Janssen was not a driver that we had in the lobby, so hence why he finishes the full distance adrift. So that is the way that they finished. We've got our drivers already sitting waiting for us in the interview waiting room. So let's bring in our race winner, Nico Verone. Nico, congratulations. That's the way to bounce back after race number 2 at Spa. Your second win of the season.
Hi guys, thank you. Yeah, it was really good race. Managed to get pole, and had a good and clean start. And then I was really much. It was really tough because the first lap I managed to break the toe because Clark and de Pauw start fighting. So at that moment I was really focused on just making qualifying laps and make a gap and be more not so fighting at the end. So it was really good race.
Could it have gone to plan any more than it did? As you say, breaking the toe early on, and then once you've broken that toe, you just control the race. You led every lap.
Yeah, it was just perfect. It was like as you dream it. And it was good race, good points, another victory. So really good. Good, good coming back from the race 2 on Spa that I got disqualified. So now going into race 2, just trying to avoid carnage and then try to push.
We know what you can do from the back of the grid as well because of your performance at Oulton Park.
Yeah, it's just a bit of luck also. You need luck not to get in any incident, and because you could avoid some, but someone could hit you behind. So it's luck and try to avoid it, and then after lap 2 or 3 you can start pushing and see what it brings.
Anything from you, Jack?
No, I think I'll let Nico warm up. Best of luck, Nico. Hopefully we'll see you back here in the podium interview for next race.
Thanks guys, cheers.
Thanks, Nico. There we go. So that's our race winner, Nico Verone, who we've just had a quick chat to. Let's bring in the next of the drivers that we want to grab a quick word with, and that is the driver that finished in second position in that race, Ulysse de Pauw. Ulysse, congratulations. Second position. We've just spoken to Nico Verone, and he said he sort of broke the toe early on, and once he'd broken it, you struggled to get with him.
Yes, thank you. It was a pretty good race. Had a good start and a good first laps. And after that, I managed to overtake Oliver, but he defended a bit his position, so Nico could break the toe. And after that, I was just every lap a bit slower than him. and I just didn't take any risk, and I brought it back to the finish line, and I finished second, so some good points.
Yeah, good points at Spa as well last weekend after what was a disappointing Oulton Park for the first couple of races. So consistency is the key now for you for the rest of the year. Keep scoring good points.
Yeah, for sure. The most important thing is to qualify at the front every time. I had some track limits issue in Oulton Park, so I started in the back, and every time when you start in the back, you're pretty sure to crash. So I qualified well in Spa and here, and it works. So yeah, for sure, the goal is the consistency.
You'll be starting from the back in race number 2 though, with the reverse grid.
Yeah, that's another story. And until now, I haven't been lucky in race 2, so hope I can turn it around now.
Thanks, Jack. Have you got anything?
No, I'll let you off and get ready for race number 2, Elise. Hopefully we'll see you back in here again for the podium interviews again.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the goal.
There we go, Ulysse de Pauw, and then let's bring in our final driver into commentary, a driver who again is looking to bounce back with some good points after a disappointing Spa. Jonathan Hoggard joins us in commentary. Jonathan, well done, mate. 3rd place.
Yeah, it was a pretty good race. Got a decent start from 15th. Struggled a little bit in qualifying with got an off track, and then that just put me on the back foot really. But got a good start and then picked my way through.
It's so critical, isn't it, qualifying, as we've heard from a few drivers. You only get the 2 laps, and if you get an off track, then yeah, it's all or nothing then. Yeah,
exactly. I think around here especially, it's quite harsh with the track limits. You don't have to go too far wide before it gives you, a 1x. And unfortunately, that's what happened. But still, a good race nonetheless.
And after Spa, we've just spoken to Ulysse de Pauw. He knows consistency is the key after a poor Oulton Park. You had a poor Spa, so again, you just need to score some consistent points here at Brands Hatch and at Donington.
Yeah, exactly. Just try and stay out of trouble if I can. Again, just work my way through, and like you said, just be consistent.
One final quick question from me. After your knee injury earlier on in the year, is that all healed up now? Not giving you any problems when you drive?
No, I think that's fine now. A couple of times it's hurt a little bit, but I think it's all good.
Oh, that's good to know. It certainly doesn't show in the performances. Well done, Jonathan.
Thank you.
There we go. So yeah, Jonathan Hoggard, we'll let him head back towards the warm-up session. Yeah, he got a knee injury when we're out at, just to sort of expand on that a little bit, Jack, when we're out in Daytona, he twisted his knee, and such was the damage to his knee, it's swollen to about twice the size that it should have been. Bearing in mind it's the Rolex 24, so he's got to get in and out of the car unaided as well. It meant that we had to change the strategy for pit stops. So he wasn't able to get out of the car and then assist the other driver getting in. But when he got back to the UK, there was some tendon and some ligament damage, which by the sounds of things has finally calmed down now, because it's not affecting his performance, certainly not with that 3rd place in that race.
No, so definitely not, and I can kind of see where he's coming from. Even just at home on my own simulator, I remember damaging my knee once, and it's extremely painful when you're trying to press a brake pedal with your left foot. So I can't even imagine what that was like in the middle of the Rolex 24, 24 hours worth of racing for hours on end.
It was so painful he couldn't left foot brake. He had to go back to right foot braking.
Oh,
he couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. So we've got him just getting over an injury, and then we've got Harrison Scott driving with a broken wrist as he broke it in training today.
Yeah, that's incredible. Trying to drive with a broken wrist, and I remember, I think it was another series at some point. There was a driver who I'm aware was paralysed in his right hand, and the same day he was supposed to be driving, he actually broke the wrist on his good hand. So
no!
He was. Yeah, I think he actually did okay, but I think it was probably the most painful race ever, because it was his non-dominant hand that he. Well, it is dominant hand, of course, but yeah, he driving the race one-handed anyway, but then having that on top of that, it's extremely tough. But we'll see how Harrison Scott gets on. Didn't do too badly in that race, not perfect, but we'll see if he can expand on his good results so far.
Yeah, let's wait and see. So this is just another quick practice session for the drivers, only 10 minutes. Now, some of the drivers will opt to come out and turn a few laps. We're looking at Kieran Vernon, who is one of the drivers that is trying to put in a quickish lap by the look of things in this session. Others just simply don't bother, do they? They sort of take this as an opportunity to grab a breather, maybe get some more fluid on board and things, because it's certainly warm, very warm in the room that I'm in this evening, and focus their efforts on the race that will be coming up. Now, reverse grid racing we have seen so far in the two that we've had, the one at Oulton Park and the one at Spa. The reverse grid races are interesting. Fraught, frantic, incident-packed.
Yeah, they always bring fantastic action, and we'll see what happens, because we'll see who's going to be starting from the pole. I know Piers Pryor is going to be up near the front, considering his poor run in race number 1 with the incident he was caught up in the final corner. But it will be interesting to see how Jonathan Hoggard, how the guys, the top 3, Elise DePau, Nico Verona, and especially Will Power. We saw what he did in race 1. Let's see if he can do it again in race 2.
Yeah, well, he sort of ended up sort of finishing in 8th in the end, didn't he? So that one is going to put him down still towards that bottom end of the grid. But I love the dynamic. You know, I love the way it's done in the championship for real, the BRDC Formula 3 Championship, where we get a reverse grid for race number 2, but it's only the finishers that get reversed. Any non-finishers still start at the back of the grid, but there's less championship points for it available. In the iRacing series that we've got in association with Apex Racing TV, it's still full championship points, so drivers want to push on. And as we saw from Nico Verone, won race number 1 at Oulton Park, started at the back for race number 2, finished 4th, and was within a whisker of getting on the podium, wasn't he?
Yep, just got caught behind a couple of cars on the way to there, but now we're beginning to grid up for the feature race, and this is going to be a really interesting one with the slipstream that's extremely effective around Silverstone. The drivers have 2 minutes to grid up, and here is your grid.
It is, yeah. So on pole position in reality will be Tom Gamble. So it's showing Kuhn Janssen sitting there, but that will be a car that won't appear. Tom Gamble will therefore be on the front row of the grid. Josh Mason and Vladimir Choitsis on row number 2. Carter Williams and Piers Pryor on row number 3. Josh Skelton and Nikolai Kiergaard on row number 4. I would say watch out for Piers Pryor, Carter Williams and Josh Skelton. Kiergaard should have a good run as well. Tom Maxwell sits alongside Kieran Vernon on row number 5. NM Ahmed and Will Palmer on row number 6. Both of those had problems. They should make progress. Jake Dalton and Harrison Scott on row number 7. On towards row number 8, Ali Al-Khalifa and Chris Meelan, Max Maserati and Will Power, Ben Hinchley, Bart Horston, Louis Foster, Ollie Clark, Jonathan Hoggard, Ulisse DePau and Nico Verone at the tail end of the field. The lights go out, and it is a good start from Josh Mason from the front row of the grid. He's got Carter Williams, but already there's contact, and Kieran Vernon is into the pit wall with contact already having been caused, and that just pitched his Chris Dittman racing car straight into the barriers. And Vladimir Choitsis is also limping around with some suspension damage, I fear, there. But I really didn't see what the cause was for Kieran Vernon.
I think it was wheel spin. There's even more. That's a big one. Louis Foster involved. That's Max Maserati involved as well. But through all of that, Piers Pryor has come from 6th to the lead. So Piers Pryor is leading. Josh Mason, Nikolai Kiergaard. Then it's Carter Williams, Ainam Ahmed, Josh Skelton. Then further down, keep an eye on our leaders, of course, Verone, DePau together. Bart Horston up to 4th and Jonathan Hoggard into 13th. They've made good progress. That was a big one. I'm pretty sure for Kieran Vernon, that was just pure wheel spin. I think that was his own mistake.
It just pitched him straight into the pit wall, didn't it? Now, we've got a Lanham Racing 1-2 here. I'd imagine the Lanham team radio will be going off at the moment, saying, right, guys, don't fight. If you can build a gap to those behind, you stand half a chance of bringing it in for a 1-2 for the team here. Or Josh Mason might be told he's got to act as rear gunner to allow Piers Pryor to try and break away, and he can hold them all up. 3 wide further back, Will Palmer looking to try and make progress up through the order. Carter Williams has a spin over on the left-hand side of the circuit, and he's now lost a rear wing on that car, so he's going to have to limp the car back home, the American driver for JHR Racing. And all of this is just allowing those cars that started at the back to already start to pick their way up through the order. Already Will Power is up 10 places. He started 18th. He's now into 10th position, into 8th position, starting 18th. He's going beautifully well, and more importantly, he's staying out of trouble.
He's also got to worry about Ben Hinchley and as well Jonathan Hoggard, who are going with him, as are Bart Horston. So they've made really good progress early on. Ollie Clark going with them, Ulisse DePau and Verone down in 15th. He hasn't made he's still up 10 places, so he's still made some good progress here. But after lap 1, it's Piers Pryor, the championship, was the championship leader, in the lead now. Josh Mason 2nd, Ainam Ahmed into 3rd, and then it's Nikolai Kiergaard just behind, and then it's Harrison Scott, Josh Skelton. Now we keep our eye on Jonathan Hoggard and Ben Hinchley, who are together, and you can see Will Power having a go on Will Palmer, who's up a little ways up the road. So there's plenty going on, and plenty of position swapping here, as now Ben Hinchley going for it on Bart Horston, getting the slipstream off of Jonathan Hoggard ahead. And up ahead, you can just see that's Nikolai Kiergaard and Harrison Scott going together as well into into Brooklyn. Can Harrison Scott pull it off? I don't think he's going to be able to, but Kiergaard holding the inside line. Let's see if Kiergaard can have a better one this time around.
Yeah, let's hope that he has a better one. For the moment, though, his wing mirrors on his Carlin car are full of the Douglas Motorsport car that sits behind Harrison Scott. Remember, he's driving with a broken wrist, we gather this evening, was the information I got midway through the broadcast. Wheel to wheel through Copse Corner with Nikolai Kiergaard, and they both stayed within the circuit limits as well. Fantastic driving from them both, and it's just allowing Enem Ahmed in third place to escape up the road a little bit as we look at them as they come round through Beckett's corner. Kiergaard under enormous pressure from Harrison Scott. Piers Pryor, who was the championship leader coming into this evening, still out front and leading the race, but the fight is on, isn't it, for fourth and for fifth position. And you can see further back as well all of the slipstreaming that is going on. Josh Skelton looking to try and attack and squeeze his way through and past Will Power and co, but that is another huge train of cars, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th and probably 10th places all together in the early stages.
Yeah, Will Power up to 6th place, and you can see that's Jonathan Hoggart having a look on Will Palmer. He's trying to make a double move here, trying to go around the outside of Will Palmer, trying to follow Josh Skelton at the same time. Bart Horston trying to go with them as well, and you can see Ollie Clark is slotting in there as well, so there's plenty going on. And then for third place, Harrison Scott has got past both of the Enem Ahmed and Nikolai Kiergaard, so they're battling away. So Harrison's got to second, and you can see Josh Mason fighting away now. Kiergaard looking on Ahmed as they run through, coming through. I think that Mason up the inside of Kiergaard gets through to fourth, but now that's allowing Will Power is now there, so he's come through and he's now fighting with the top five. This is a fantastic drive, a demo drive from the Indy 500 winner.
It's a fantastic drive from him. Yeah, the fastest lap of the race, the car in 15th position. Jake Dalton has just posted the fastest lap of the race, I would imagine. That was probably because he was in the group at the tail end of it and got the slipstream effect. Will Power now looking to try and close in on Nikolai Kiergaard, who was runner-up in the championship, remember, back in 2018, the 20-year-old Dane, racing for Carlin Motorsport in the British Formula 3 iRacing Championship in association with Apex Racing TV. But he's got the Indy 500 winner, a former IndyCar champion, 2014 champion, right in his mirrors now. And it looks as though Will Power is trying to bring with him both Josh Skelton and Jonathan Hoggard, with Will Palmer and Bart Horston not too far away either. Kiergaard is going to have to continually just work out where he might have a good advantage. Now, one of the key things he needs to do is get a clean run out of Chapel Curve and try and sit in the slipstream of Josh Mason, because that will allow him to maybe just stay out of harm's way, and he has. He's got a good run coming out of Chapel. You can see the 63 sitting right behind the Landon Racing number 21 car in the hands of Josh Mason. He's not going to make it through there as they head up towards Stowe on lap number 4.
Hoggard gets it done on Skelton in the background, so Hoggard goes through to 7th place. Now he's up behind Will Power, so these guys can now charge after this is essentially with all these cars together. You can see that is Will Palmer trying to hold Bart Horston behind him. Ollie Clark, that's Josh Skelton has spun it in the last couple of corners. Then we go back now, Bart Horston with Ollie Clark and Ben Hingley, and Ulysse DePau is in there now as well, and Verone as they come through 3 abreast towards turn number 1. Bart Horston trying to have a go on Will Palmer through turn number 1. Ben Hingley trying to find some space as well. Horston and Hingley going together now. Horston now trying to follow through. You can see there up the inside now 3 abreast as they come through. Ollie Clark trying to find some space on the inside line. They find some room, somehow don't make contact around the outside. I think he's got it done, and he has. Hingley goes through, but Ulysse DePau and Nico Verone are now in this one.
Poor old Will Palmer there got absolutely mugged, didn't he? His cars were to his left, to his right. There was no contact made between any of them. And even further down through the order, there's still squabbles going on, and there is contact. Ulysse DePau makes contact, unfortunately, with Will Power, I think that was it not? And Ollie Clark. And that's going to make them all tumble down towards the tail end of the field. And those were the drivers that we knew were going to come up through the order. And yeah, damage to the rear suspension of Ulysse DePau. That was exactly what he didn't want, unfortunately. That is going to drop him all the way back down towards the tail end of the field.
What a shame for Ollie Clark. It's another day of just terrible, terrible luck. I think move wasn't really on for Kiergaard, but for Ulysse DePau there. When he tried it, I don't think it was really on. But Verone now into the top 10. That's exactly what he wanted. He kept his nose out of it. But now we carry on to lap number 5. It's still Piers Pryor who's still leading this race from Harrison Scott, Enem Ahmed. And we go to Piers Pryor. Piers Pryor is about 2.2 seconds clear of anybody, so he's got some good 3.6 seconds. That's Chris Meelan in between them. So Piers Pryor, he's kept himself out of trouble. He's now leading and up 6 places. Started in 6th, came all the way up to the lead, and he's in comfortable form now. as he now goes on to lap number 5. So it's the fastest lap of the race. You can see Harrison Scott under pressure from Aidan Ahmed, Josh Mason, Nikolai Kiergaard, and Will Power. But now Will Power under pressure from Jonathan Hoggard. This could get interesting.
I think it's going to be interesting for what the remaining 12 minutes still of this race. Harrison Scott under pressure from NM Ahmed. They've also got the lapped car.
Kiergaard just spun in the background. He's a full 360, kept it going. I wonder if there was contact, but he's lost the place to Will Power and Jonathan Hoggard. Just have a look at this one again, heading up towards the first corner. I think he lost it by himself, heading into this corner. Oh, did he get a tap? He got a tap from Will Power, sent him around.
Yeah, it did.
Got it going, thankfully, but it loses 2 spots. Nicely done, the 360 to get it back going again, but that was a little bit unfortunate. He's got a tap from Will Power and drops him back behind Bart Horston.
Yeah, it's only the slightest of touches, wasn't it? But when you're on the knife edge anyway, with the car dancing on the edge of adhesion, that was all it needed just to unsettle the tail end of the car. But now Nikolai Kiergaard is trying to attack back again and see whether he might be able to steal the place over Bart Horston. Draws himself alongside almost as they head up towards Cops Corner. Has to run very, very wide as a result of that. So needs to be careful that he doesn't trigger too many off-circuit incidents. But now Nikolai Kiergaard has lost time to the car he was attacking, has fallen back into the clutches of the number 77 car in the hands of Ben Hingley for Fortec Motorsport. So we're almost at the halfway point of this race now. We've seen some great fights through the order, but out front Piers Pryor is leading by almost 4 seconds, isn't he?
Yeah, he's comfortably out front at the moment with all the battling that's going on behind him. So he's doing really, really well. At the back of Ben Hingley is the Chris Dittman racing car of Nico Verone, right behind him. So Nico has made some good progress up from 24th place. He's up to 10th and on the back of Ben Hingley and Nikolai Kiergaard. So just keeping his nose out of incidents, exactly what he always does. On board with him now, heading through the last corner, and we'll see if he's going to be able to make a move past Ben Hingley into possibly turn number 3, heading towards Abbey. He'll have the slipstream. He might get a small wash of understeer coming through here as the air off the car in front. But I think Hingley might actually have a run on Kiergaard up ahead. So Hingley alongside Kiergaard into turn 3. Holds on for now, tries to get the undercut up underneath him. Verone will now sensibly hang where Hingley goes for it up the inside, though. Contact ahead of him, and Verone drives past him, says thank you very much, and through he goes into 8th place. Hingley tried a dive and it really didn't work out.
No, you could see there was frustration on Hingley's face, and he was desperate to try and accelerate into the gap that was there, but the gap was always going to close, and therefore that has now dropped him further down through the order. He's now down into 11th position, Ben Hingley, and for Nico Verone, well, that's now up into 8th position, so 17 places gained from his starting position, Nico Verone, which is the same amount of places that's been gained by Jonathan Hoggard, who is running in 6th position overall in the race. Verone, though, coming under pressure from Nikolai Kiergaard, who's looking to try and attack to steal the place away again if he can. Kiergaard ran very wide at Cops last time. He runs wide again this time through in this great little battle that we've got going on for 8th and 9th positions as they head up towards Maggots and then Beckett's.
Kiergaard must think he has a magnet attached to his car. He's been involved in so many incidents so far, but he's somehow kept the car in a straight line and still fighting for a top 10 here versus Nico Verone, the now championship leader. We'll be interested to see the points after this race is done with Piers Pryor out in the lead. But Verone in 8th with Horston ahead of him, Hoggard to 6th, and Will Power now in 5th place. The Indy 500 winner in 5th place right now after starting all the way down in 18th place. So he's doing an excellent job, Will Power, in this will be his only appearance in the series. Having a look at the lap times now, Piers Pryor. Harrison Scott was the fast lap of the race. That's taken by Ainam Ahmed by just about 100th of a second there. So the top 3 are lapping very, very well here. Will Power is actually the fastest of a lot of them on a 152.1.
Yeah, he's closing in, isn't he, on the cars that sit ahead of him is Will Power, but NM Ahmed is looking to try and close in on 2nd place. Harrison Scott, Lannon Racing lead, Douglas Motorsport 2nd, Carlin Motorsport, that car there in 3rd place, Lannon in 4th. The first independent driver is our guest driver, Will Power, in 5th place, and the leading Fortec car is Jonathan Hoggard, who completes the top 6 at the moment, but all of them are on the Wellington Straight at the same time, so there's no huge gaps still, other than Piers Pryor being the best part of 3.5 seconds up the road. And now it looks like Will Power is going to try and squeeze his way past Josh Mason, gets the job done coming out of Brooklands and then up towards Luffield Corner. Josh Mason trying to fight back though as they head up towards Woodcut. So is this going to be another pair of cars that are side by side heading round through Cops Corner? Willpower has the inside line. Josh Mason is not giving it up easily here as they turn their way through the right-hander absolutely together. But again, Josh Mason knows that he's going to have to run out wide to avoid any contact, which still means they're side by side as they come up towards Maggots and then up towards Beckett's Corner. But finally, the 2018 Indy 500 winner, Willpower, is through up into 4th place. Josh Mason down into 5th. But it's been a good drive from Josh, hasn't it? Had a poor race 1, which put him at the front of the grid for race number 2, and he's still up there fighting with them.
Yeah, he's doing a really, really good job, Josh Mason. Kept his nose clean so far, fighting with Willpower now. Power was quite loose coming through Maggots and Beckett, and Mason's having to think about coming back at him into Stowe. He has a little look, but Will closes the door in his face on the way through. That's allowed Jonathan Hoggard now to have a go on Josh Mason for 5th place. Hoggard trying to follow Willpower here. Is Hoggard going to get the move done around the outside? He's going to have a go around the outside of the final couple of corners. Can he make it stick? Oh, he's spinning. They come to blows. Hoggard into the wall in the last corner. He kicks it out of the wall, but into the gravel trap. There's contact with Mason. He lost it on the way through. Unfortunate for them, those guys there, just lost it on the power. But Mason carries on with damage on the right-hand side of his front wing. Let's have a quick look at that again.
I think Mason just got on the power a bit too quickly coming out of the corner, which pitched him into the side of Jonathan Hoggard. So here they are side by side. Josh Mason gets sideways, coming out of the corner, tags the rear end of Jonathan Hoggard, and Jonathan Hoggard was very much the innocent party in that one. But poor old Josh Mason, just slight mistake, wasn't it? But it cost this man even more, Jonathan Hoggard. He is now back down into 10th position after a poor weekend at Spa. He was hoping for a good weekend here at Silverstone. 3rd in the first race, 10th at the moment now in this race with only 6 minutes to go. He's going to have to start to see what he can do again. The next car that's going to be firmly in the crosshairs as far as he's concerned is going to be Josh Skelton's number 43 car for Chris Dittman Racing that lies just up the road.
Yeah, see if he can close in about it. It's second and a bit to the worst, chasing after Josh Skelton. But just closing up on the 5 minutes to go mark. It's still Piers Pryor out in front comfortably ahead of Harrison Scott, who's still driving with that broken wrist and doing an excellent job. Eamon Ahmed still 3rd, Willpower is 4th, and Bart Horston is 5th, Josh Mason 6th, and Nico Verone now 7th. Now we look at Piers Pryor, 2.7 seconds ahead of Harrison Scott. And Harrison Scott has actually opened the gap to Eamon Ahmed, apart from anything. Power is actually 3 seconds back from Eamon Ahmed, so I don't know if he's actually going to be able to close up in these last 5 minutes. But I'll tell you, Verone has made it up to 6th place now, gets past Mason, but Piers Pryor looking really good to secure his first win of the season.
He is, but he can't afford to ease off too much because Harrison Scott last time through set the fastest lap of the race that we've seen so far, 1 minute 52.2, so he's certainly charging. He's brought the gap down now to 2 3/4 seconds, has Harrison Scott, and is bringing with him NM Ahmed. And for Piers Pryor, the race leader, he's got traffic to deal with as well before too much longer. So this is the critical part of the race, really, where Harrison Scott needs to push but be careful, and Piers Pryor needs to get past the back markers and be careful. And with what now just 4.5 minutes to go, is there any other twists in the tail that we are going to see? Harrison Scott still pushing on in 2nd place. That car there, NM Ahmed, sitting there in 3rd place, not quite picking up the slipstream too much down the Wellington Straight. Just needs to close in by another couple of car lengths, and that would make all the difference as far as NM Ahmed is concerned. But Harrison Scott, considering he's driving with a broken wrist, is doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, he's doing an amazing job holding Eamon Ahmed behind. What Willpower needs is these guys to now start fighting for this 2nd place. Then you might have a chance at the podium, but the Bart Horston behind was just a tad quicker than him that time around, but he's about 1.9 seconds back. So I think Horston might just have to accept 5th place for now. Verone is up to 6th from the back of the grid, so it's another great recovery drive from the back of the grid for Nico Verone. And Nikolai Kiergaard, despite everything, is still running in 7th. I think he'll still be extremely pleased that he's still intact.
Yeah, considering the amount of times there's been sort of tags on the back of his car, there's still no obvious damage on it, and it's still going very well in the hands of the Dane, who finished runner-up in the championship back in 2018, the 20-year-old. So there is Nikolai Kiergaard running in 7th position at this stage. 7th place would net him 15 championship points if he can stay where he is. But for Piers Pryor, he seems to have just made sure that the gap has stayed where it is now between himself and Harrison Scott, who had been closing. 3 minutes of the race still to go. We're looking at 7th place car, Nikolai Kiergaard. Josh Mason not that far behind him, who has had a busy old race and has still been hanging on, bounces over the curbs there. Needs to be careful that you don't snag those sausage curves, because that really was what unsettled Will Power, wasn't it, on the way towards the checkered flag in race number 1.
Yeah, speaking of willpower, he was a second quicker than Inam Ahmed that lap. So this could get Ahmed was quite slow with that lap. I'm not sure what happened to him. Whether he had a mistake or something. But Ahmed lost a second to willpower, which brings the gap down to about 2 seconds now. But yeah, that sausage curve on the last corner was what unsettled willpower and lost him 5th place against Louis Foster. Louis Foster has not finished this race. He's out of this race, which is the first time we've seen Foster DNF from race 2. We look now at Ben Hingley, who's now got Jake Dalton to deal with now in 12th place behind him. Ollie Clark as well down in 13th place. He was involved in his own fair share of incidents earlier on. But they carry on, and now Hoggard gets ahead into 9th place. But about 2 minutes left. This will be the last lap coming across the line next time for Piers Pryor, who again has had an absolutely perfect race. And we were chatting to him about his prospects of getting a podium last week, and he was optimistic, but I don't think he thought he was going to come out with a win.
Absolutely, yeah. He just wanted to try and get on the podium, but he's on for a win here. Unfortunately, my screen is frozen again at the number 77 car of Ben Hingley. I know on your screens you're seeing Piers Pryor at this stage, but that's not at all what I'm seeing. Piers Pryor still the best part of 3 seconds up the road from Harrison Scott. Harrison Scott's car is just there, just heading now out of what is Stowe and in towards the Vale. You can see the dark blue car with the day glow flashes to it. Enem Ahmed sitting there in 3rd position, so they're just about to flash their way over the start finish line and on to the last lap of the race. Piers Pryor was the championship leader coming into this weekend's racing here at Silverstone, finished 20th in the first race and is on for a win in the second race, which means that he's going to be right up there in terms of the championship point scoring again, isn't he? Mr. Consistency he's been, other than that 20th place in race number 1. That's the first blip he's had.
Yeah, then that was through no fault of his own. Just got caught up in an instant, arrived into the last corner, and there was a car waiting for him there. So unfortunate for Piers, but yeah, his consistency continues. He's been rewarded now with a race 2 victory if he can get it to the end. Harrison Scott 2.7 back. Will Power took another 0.6 of a second out of Ainam Ahmed that lap around, but I don't know if he's going to quite have enough to catch him. He's got to really push in this middle sector now to close up to him. He's within just under a second behind him, but he needs to be within about 0.7 of a second to get that slipstream to maybe grab a podium.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic if he could grab a podium. We saw, remember, our guest driver, Tom Ingram, win race number 2 on the road last weekend at Spa. Well, Will Power is pushing to try and get a podium, but I don't think Enem Ahmed is going to make any mistakes at all. Just runs a little bit wide coming out of Copse Corner. Now he's pushing the limits. He's had 14 off track so far. You only get 20, but with only quarter of a lap to go, he can afford to add a few to that tally without too much trouble. But Piers Pryor will be heading up towards the final couple of corners and is looking good for his first win in the BRTC British Formula 3 iRacing Championship in association with Apex Racing TV. Piers Pryor is going to claim a win and is going to add to it a fistful of championship points, isn't he?
Yeah, it's been a perfect day as well for Piers Pryor. In race number 2, the win, the reward has finally come for Piers Pryor across the line. He wins race 2 in Silverstone. Harrison Scott with the broken wrist, 2nd place. He'll be delighted with that one. Ainam Ahmed holds off Will Power for 3rd place. Bart Horston and then Nico Verone from a great drive from the back of the grid again, 6th place. Nikolai Kiergaard survives and will finish in 7th. Jonathan Hoggard in 8th place after his spin into the gravel. Josh Mason still gets the top 10, and Jake Dalton will round out the top 10, and Ben Hingley just behind him. But Piers Pryor, this is quite something. He hasn't yet raced in the BRDC British Formula 3 Championship, yet he's actually won a race.
Yeah, it's quite bizarre, isn't it? Yeah. Hasn't raced in it, but has won a race. Yeah, and well done as well. Yeah, because he had work to do after disappointment in race number 1. He was at the right end of the grid relative to others, but he just didn't make a mistake, didn't he? He got past his Lannan teammates nice and early on, and then managed to just get that little bit of a gap, and then really just controlled the race from there. So, good run from Piers Pryor. He'll be chuffed to bits with that, I would have thought. Harrison Scott finishing in 2nd place, Enem Ahmed in 3rd place, and our guest driver Will Power, the former Indy 500 winner and IndyCar champion, finishing in 4th position. So we've got drivers already heading towards the waiting room for us. Hopefully we'll be able to give you a full rundown of the results, though, as the last few cars are trickling their way over the start-finish line in a few moments' time. But what a drive again from Nico Verone. 19 places gained relative to his starting position, and the Argentinian just seems to keep doing it, doesn't he? Won race number 1 at Oulton Park, finished 4th in race number 2, won race number 1 here at Silverstone, and finishes 6th in race number 2. He has that fabulous knack of having the pace and staying out of trouble.
Yeah, he's extremely talented in keeping himself out of the incidents, and everything seems to happen in front of him. A lot of people call it the Moses effect, with cars crashing in front of him, parting ways for him to drive through. A couple of times that's happened today for Nico Verone, but here is the official results.
It is, yeah. So Piers Pryor claims the win for Lannon Racing. 3.2 seconds in the end from Harrison Scott. So Piers Pryor also picks up the maximum 35 championship points. Harrison Scott in second. NM Ahmed in third place. Will Power in his guest drive finishes in fourth place. Bas Horston is fifth, and Nico Verone sixth place for Chris Dittman Racing. Nikolai Kiergaard, Jonathan Coggard, Josh Mason and Jake Dalton complete the top 10, with Ben Hinchley in 11th place, Ollie Clark in 12th, and it's Kieran Vernon, Josh Skelton, Carter Williams, Tom Maxwell, Vladimir Joitsis and Max Maserati that completes the top 18. Outside of the top 18 in 19th position, when the graphic changes, it's going to be Chris Meelan, Ulysse DePau with problems in 20th place, Ali Al Khalifa, Will Palmer, Louis Foster, and Tom Gamble, also a retiree. So that's the racing done and dusted with, but we've got the drivers to have a chat to, who are sitting waiting for us in the waiting room. So I'm going to bring in, we haven't got our race winner in just as yet, so I'm going to bring in Harrison Scott, and we'll grab a quick word with Harrison Scott, who has just finished second in our second race here. Harrison, congratulations, second position, and I gather that's with a broken wrist.
Yeah, I broke my wrist, unfortunately, yesterday afternoon, and I fractured my wrist yesterday afternoon, and managed to adapt my sim to left-hand drive, which isn't actually my prominent hand, so it's been a little tough getting used to, but I've actually felt, when I've kind of got used to it, I feel like I'm just as quick, if not quicker, one-handed than I am two-handed, so...
It would be wrong of me not to ask, how did you do it? What were you up to? Can you tell us?
Yeah, I was training, of all things, so thinking I was nice and safe training, and fractured it, so one of them things.
Just a 50% cast at the moment, back to fracture clinic, and then is that 6 weeks out?
Well, yeah, I need to go back on Tuesday to see what they say, but not really looking into it too much. It is what it is. I can kind of get by, so yeah, obviously it's not ideal, and I didn't think it was ideal coming into this race, but I had to make the best of a bad situation, and did that, I think, in race 2 there. You
certainly did. I think fastest lap of the race you got as well. You were closing in on Piers towards the end.
Yeah, no, it was a shame I was battling with an arm mid-race, because that just allowed Piers to get away. And then once I got back into a rhythm, as you say, was just kind of clawing him back in. But overall happy. Bit of forearm pump now in the left arm, but it's all good.
And Jack, you'll have particular questions, no doubt, about the wheel setup and how that's affected Harrison with his broken wrist.
Yeah, Harrison, can I quickly ask, is it a direct drive wheel that you run?
It is, yes.
Right, so I would imagine that if there was any sort of contact, that your other wrist would have been in danger.
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't want to turn the force feedback too low, because then I just lose complete feeling. So I've had it ramped up quite high. Obviously, I do the clutch, the up and down change all on the left-hand side. But yeah, as you say, I think the worst thing, contact isn't so bad, but as soon as I have a bit of a slide, as soon as I go past a certain point, I just have to kind of give up on it. So that's kind of been, like in that race, you're kind of driving that 90% just to not have any big moments. So
exactly. A final one from me as well. Brands Hatch next week. Looking forward to that one?
Yep, looking forward to it. Try and hit a rest up before then, and hopefully I can see if I can get 2 hands on the wheel.
Great stuff. Look forward to seeing that next week, Harrison. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Brilliant, thank you.
Yeah, good to hear from Harrison Scott. Let's bring in our race winner now to have a quick chat to us. We had a chat to Piers Pryor last week and the week before, but we were hoping we might see you on the podium this week. You got one a bit late at Spa in the amended results, but that was a dominant win, Piers. Well done.
Cheers, thanks very much. Yeah, as I said last week, I kind of wanted a proper interview, so I've got one. Not the race I wanted, but we'll take it nonetheless.
It was, yourself and Josh Mason, two Lamb teammates in the early stages. Was there much traffic over the radio as to what you were going to do in the early stages of the race with each other?
Nah, to be fair, we keep pretty quiet during the races. So I was just getting on with my thing, just trying not to make any mistakes, trying not to get a slowdown. I got a bit worried when I saw Harrison behind because obviously he was rapid in the first couple of races or the first race. So yeah, I was like just trying to keep my head down. Then once with the like 3 laps to go, I realized I had 3 seconds. So I was like, right, at this point, as long as I don't make a mistake, I should be all right. Just wanted to get some points, to be honest, because it's a bit disappointing the first race to get taken out, but it is what it is.
Did you know Harrison was driving with a broken wrist?
I did not, which makes it slightly even more impressive. I better break my wrist if I want to go a bit
No,
please.
We need to wrap you in cotton wool. Mr. Consistency, as you say, taken out, not really as a result of anything that you did in race number 1, finished 20th, but that's the way to bounce back, Piers, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good way to bounce back. I thought I'd start a bit lower than I did actually, but managed to get a really good start. Jumped pretty much the whole row in front of me, and then just got Josh into turn 2, as I'm sure you saw. But no, it was a really good fun race. I'm glad I got Josh when I did because it meant I could just get my head down and go away. But yeah, as I said previously, I really wanted to just try and keep consistent and get consistent results. Unfortunately, in race 1, that didn't go my way. Got taken out by I think it was. Can't remember who it was, but it was an incident behind that I ended up getting collected in. But one of those things. But it was, to be honest, it stemmed from my mistake because I ended up getting a slowdown behind Bart at Cops, which was pretty silly. So if I hadn't have got that, I probably got taken out. So realistically, probably stems from my mistake. But again, not too bad points for the round. Unfortunately, not going to be in the lead, I think, after this, which is short-lived. But it was fun while it lasted. Hopefully, I can be back up there towards the end of the season.
I'm sure you will be. Jack, anything?
Yeah, I was doing some quick maths there. I think you're still pretty much in it, Piers. You're still, I think, about 12 points behind Nico now, but not quite the pity interview this week. We actually got you in for this time, but I think we worked out something. Piers, you have not yet raced in the BRDC F3 Championship, yet you have actually won a race.
There we go. My first BRDC F3 win comes online. Who knew, eh?
Yeah, great.
Let's hope I can get some more in real life this year.
Yeah, we look forward to seeing that. The final one for me, Brands Hatch next week. It's a favourite for many drivers, but it's a very tight and twisty one compared to Silverstone. Yeah,
I love Brands Hatch, especially the GP circuit. It's a great track, obviously. Everyone loves it. I actually haven't driven around there in this car before, because I haven't driven this car much before this season started. So I'm going to have to get some laps in, I suppose. Got an exam on Tuesday, so once that's out of the way, then hopefully get some practice in. But again, it will be a lot more difficult to overtake than round here in Spa, I imagine. So again, consistency is key. Qualifying will be really important, and then just keeping out of trouble, as I've done at rounds 1 and 2, and not so well today.
Yeah, great stuff. Well, Piers, well done on the win. It's finally come for you, and we'll hopefully see you back in here for another winners interview, hopefully next week.
Hopefully, we'll see you guys next week. Cheers, guys.
Thanks, Piers. Cheers. So there we go. There's Piers Pryor. Let's grab a quick word with the driver that finished in 3rd position, Enem Ahmed. Enem, great to see you back on the podium again. We saw you at Oulton Park in race number 2. You're back with us again here at Silverstone, race number 2.
I started down in 14th or something like that, 15th, and I kept out of trouble. Did a few good overtakes on the first lap. Happy with that. And it was a good race overall. I think Josh Mason on the first lap had a slowdown penalty, and he just stayed in the middle of the track, and then I let Harrison get past for that. But I think if that didn't happen, maybe he could have challenged for the win because I was very, very close to the leader at that point. I need to get better in the qualifying because in the practice I'm always quick when I get the tires up to temperature, and I'm always in the top 3. But in the qualifying, when you get 2 laps, always on iRacing seems to take a lot longer to get the front tires in and to get them up to temperature. And I've been asking Piers and some of the other drivers what they do to help that, and they've told me a few things. So hopefully I'll be better in the next.
So you're going to be doing a bit of private testing then, just to try that theory out and see, as a driver, what works for you in terms of getting those temperatures up so quickly, which, as you say, you need to do in quali.
Yeah, exactly. The car is so different in quali compared to practice because the tire. Well, on the iRacing, the tires take about 3 laps to get up to temperature. In the quali, we only have 2, so they're still cold. But it's about learning how to drive around them and still be quick. And Nico and Piers told me a few things, so I'm going to try it out in the next one.
You look in your mirrors towards the end of the race, and you've got an Indy 500 winner sitting behind you.
Yeah, I know. It was interesting to see Will Powell behind me, and it was really, really quick. But me and Harrison were both quite quick together, and we were doing quite a good job. And to be honest, I was looking forward to, hopefully, my aim for this weekend was actually just to have a race with Will Power, but that unfortunately never really happened. And I probably won't see him again for a while. I was looking forward to that, but that never happened. But it was a great race, nevertheless, as always.
Jack?
Yep. Adam, of course, we've been in lockdown for the best part of 3 months now. You must be itching to get behind the wheel of the real car now.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Like, and I think I'm doing FI, F3, so I think I could be luckier than most people where, because we're with F1, we get to go to do the championship earlier than most people. So looking like July, hopefully, so in a month. And I'm looking forward to getting going again.
Good stuff. Well, Adam, well done on the podium today, and hopefully we'll see you next week in Brands Hatch.
Thank you very much, guys. Yeah, I'll see you next week at Brands.
Thanks, Enim. So there we go. Enim Arbed, we've got another driver that's sitting waiting for us in the waiting room. So let's bring him in and have a chat with him, because what a drive it was yet again for our race one winner, Nico Veroni. Nico, a top 6 finish, 19 places you gained from the back of the grid. Well done.
Hi guys, yeah, it was really good race. Managed to get P6, really good points. Winning race 1 and P6 in the reverse grid is great. So yeah, I think now we are P1 in the championship, and yes, really happy for that, and looking forward to Brands.
The key, as we were chatting about at the end of race number 1, is to stay out of trouble as you pick your way through the order. And there was one particular lap where you were fighting with a couple of cars going in towards Village and the Loop, and the two of them took each other out directly in front of you, and you just avoided it.
Yeah, it was really difficult. I just wanted to leave a gap with the cars in front so that I could, I could avoid the crash. And yeah, I did it. Also, I saw Hogarth that he was like 4 places in front of me, and he started with me. So I said, okay, I have to push a little bit more. But then I thought, and I said, okay, I will stay out of trouble. He was passing like really aggressive, and he went, then had a crash, I think, or he went off. I don't know what happened. And yeah, I could overtake him, and I was, and I could like be 2 places in front of him, and that's really good for the championship.
And you picked them all off. I'm just having a quick look at the official timing now. You picked them all off. Track limits were an issue last weekend. Only one single off track from you in the whole of that race, Nico. So it was clean racing all the way through.
Yeah, it was clean because I just wanted to get it done, get points. I was not like aiming to win it or be on the podium, because it's really difficult. So I say, okay, I'm going to focus on get points and keep it clean and be like away of crashes and all that. So yeah, it was really good, and really happy for that.
Jack, final questions?
Yeah, exactly. Nico, of course, we had Will Power on the grid this week. How cool was it sharing or getting to race against an IndyCar legend like Will?
Mate, it's just crazy for I think, like, for drivers like us, at least for me, being with such legends like Will is great. Like, we are all aiming to, obviously, I think we are that we are in British F3, we aim to Formula 1, but we all aim to be like professional drivers and be like, at the level of him at IndyCar. It's crazy. So yeah, it's really great, and I hope like in the future we could have more drivers like him.
Yeah, and the final one from me, of course, I think by my calculations, I think you are in the lead of the championship by 12 points. So confident you can hold on to that win in the last 2 rounds?
Yeah, hopefully. It's like the championship is getting tighter and tighter. The level is going really up with all the drivers, so it's difficult to keep it up. So yeah, we will have to test a lot, practice a lot, and try to be on top.
Great stuff. Well, Nico, thanks for chatting to us in both races. Well done on the results, and we'll see you next week in Brands Hatch.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Thanks, Nico. Yep, so Nico Veroni, the final driver that we're going to chat to this evening. I was hoping we might grab a quick word with Will Power, but I can't see that he is still around anymore, unfortunately, Jack, because we missed the opportunity to chat to Johnny Adam, who was our guest driver in the first race BC at Oulton Park. We spoke, obviously, to Tom Ingram, but we were queued up to have a chat to Will Power, but unfortunately, I think he's probably disappeared offline now. We will be back at Silverstone with the BRDC Formula 3 Championship, but Jack, on the amended schedule, I suspect the weather might be different when we go racing for real at Silverstone, the 7th and 8th of November.
Yeah, I've got a feeling that's going to be nowhere near 26 degrees Celsius.
It's not. No, it's definitely not. but as ever, Silverstone, we knew it would be sort of there'd be a few incidents along the way. We knew slipstreaming would be the key, and Silverstone is such a fantastic circuit that you've got those overtaking opportunities, and we saw plenty of that along the way.
Yeah, exactly. But we head to Brands Hatch next week, of course, and it's a different circuit again. It's got the long back straight, but there's a lot more elevation changes there in Brands Hatch. But again, Piers Pryor was saying it's one of his favourite circuits. So I don't know if we're going to quite see the same kind of overtaking that we did. But of course, we have got Druid's Hairpin, which always provides for some fantastic action and sometimes, well, a lot of the times, accidents.
Yeah, looking forward to that one. So that is next Sunday. That will be the 7th of June, Brands Hatch on the Grand Prix circuit. That's the penultimate event on the calendar as well, because the week after that, the 14th of June, then we'll head to Donington Park on the Grand Prix circuit there for the final round of the British Formula 3 iRacing Championship in association with Apex Racing TV. The championship for real gets underway. The BRDC Formula 3 Championship gets underway for real on the rescheduled timetable and calendar at the first few days of August, the 1st and 2nd of August. Oulton Park in Cheshire will be where we finally, fingers crossed, unless there's any further plans, get racing for real underway. So that's all then from Silverstone. We hope you've enjoyed it, the British Formula 3 iRacing Championship in association with Apex Racing TV. But from Jack Conan and myself, Mark Werrell, we'll see you all next week when we head virtually to Brands Hatch.